Hi everyone, thanks for checking in for part 2 of Mobilize Now. In part 1, we looked at ways to move machinery around the shop, and we saw that mobile bases are well suited for certain pieces, such as table saws, but here in the Woodmaker Workshop, we prefer to use the pallet jack base whenever possible for a number of reasons. The two main reasons being convenience and cost. Convenience because there is no need to contend with those fixed or swivel casters, and with a pallet jack base, there are no outriggers or locking levers that always seem to be in your way. As you may have heard in our other videos, our goal here is always to make something good out of wood, so a pallet jack base is our first choice, and in this video we are going to make one with materials we have on hand. There is no out-of-pocket expense except for the 4 bolts and 4 nuts that cost us around $3. Here is how we did it. We want to know the end from the beginning, so like the grave digger, we'll start at the top and work our way down. The top for the cabinet was cobbled together beforehand, shown here from the rear and then the front, a lip on 3 sides to keep stuff from rolling off and falling to the floor. The dimensions of the base are, of course, determined by the size of the top, but we also needed to accommodate our pallet jack. Here the fork height is 3 1/4 inches and width is 19. Make your entry space a bit larger, a bit smaller simply won't do. A 1/4 inch clearance on the height is ample, a bit more on the width, or you will find the pallet jack needs to be positioned perfectly straight to get into the opening, and you'll end up realizing you're not very bright, or worse yet, having someone else point that out while others are standing around. Start with your rails or runners, whatever you want to call them is up to you. We'll be working with oak that has some imperfections. This wood is cracked, twisted, and generally unruly, kind of like some people you might know. The cracks or checks running the entire length, but even bad wood can be made to serve a purpose. That is the woodmaker's way. Get them squared up and get them close to the right size. They should look something like this. We're going to use 5/8 by 11 bolts, 2 inches long, as a means to level the base and keep the cabinet from teetering, so we will bore holes for the bolts and insert the nuts. But first, prepare a couple of pieces of stock to hold everything in place. The side with the flaws toward the rail so your work will look good even though no one can see it. A bit oversized, as you see here, is fine for now. Fit the thinner pieces and fasten them with screws to assure proper repositioning later. Bore 5/8 holes at least as long as your bolts. There is no need to go much beyond that. Mark the outline for each nut as you see here. You will need to remove enough material to set the nuts into the rail. Here we used a 5/8 bit to align the drill press, clamping the rail in place. With the 7/8 Forstner bit, we easily removed most of the material and at the same time took it to the proper depth, and we finished the hex pattern with hammer and chisel. If there is an easier way, we don't know about it, but we do know there is a harder way, using just the hammer and chisel. It can be done. When you are satisfied with your hammer and chisel efforts, simply tap the nuts into place. It'll look something like this. Then go ahead and put the pieces together with glue, the bolts in place to assure a proper fit. You can never go wrong allowing the assembly to remain clamped overnight. Remove that little bit of extra material left on the thin boards. And when you're done with that, trim the ends flush and to equal length. Here we made caps for the ends of the rails, not only to hide the flaws, but keep them from worsening. Caps are glued and screwed, and again, allowed to remain clamped overnight. We plug the screw holes with dowels for no other reason than to improve the appearance. That, too, is the woodmaker's way. Clean up the bit of extra as you did before, then take a roundover bit to all edges except those that will be in contact with the deck. We're going to put the deck together in 60 seconds or less. Cut the stiles to equal length. The rest can be trimmed to size later. For ease of assembly and strength, go with pocket holes. Slap it all together and clamp firmly to make joints with no gaps. You all know about those unwanted guests that sneak in and soon have all their friends and relatives moving in with them and making a mess of everything. We're talking about mice here. So make a barrier to keep the dust and the mice out of the cabinet. Cut the panel to size, then mark the radius on each corner using a template before rounding them off. Glue the panel in place using clamps. or if you have them handy, use concrete blocks. The next day, you can conform the size of the deck to the top, taking notice of disparity in tactile sensation. In other words, run your fingers along the edges to see how they match up and do what you have to do until you're satisfied. Round over the edges on the deck if you care to. Attach the deck to the rails in such a way that the fasteners will not interfere with the cabinet or be visible later. Pre-drill holes for the fasteners and run them in with no need for glue. An impact wrench takes less effort and less time, but watch out that you don't snap off any of those cheap lag screws or you will have to switch the rails around. A clear coat of lacquer seals against moisture and brings out the beauty of the wood, if that sort of thing is of any importance to you. There you have it, folks. That's how we made our pallet jack base. And of course, you can change it around or come up with your own design. Keep in mind that pallet jacks generally come in a 21 or 27 inch width with 48 inch forks, but you may run across something else. Find the size that suits you or work with what you have on hand, and you will soon find that moving equipment or dead weight around the shop is so easy, a kindergartner can do it. Hey, knock that off! Hey! Hey, hey, hey!